is the collective term for end-to-end systems that deliver reliable apps and services to one and all when they need them. It's the combination of computer framework, languages, and software applications behind the day-to-day interface used by all across the spectrum. In this session, participants will get to know about capacity building through technology and iGOT. Two very important programs fall under this mission. Karmayogi, Mission Karmayogi, National Program for Civil Services. Capacity building has been envisioned by the government to address the changing needs and aspirations of the citizen. The program has been designed to enhance the civil services under a national program anchored by an apex body headed by the Prime Minister. Mission Karmayogi is complemented by iGOT Karmayogi, a comprehensive online platform that enables online face-to-face and blended learning and manages lifelong learning records for the officials. Then we have Atal Tinkering Labs. Atal Innovation Mission is establishing Atal Tinkering Laboratories in schools across India with a vision to cultivate 1 million children in India as neoteric innovators. The objective of the scheme is to foster curiosity, creativity, and imagination in young minds, and also inculcate skills such as design mindset, computational thinking, adaptive learning, physical computing, etc. Then on the list, we have Future Skills Prime, an online platform for B2B skilling by NASSCOM, which was launched by the Honorable Prime Minister in the presence of Honorable Minister of Electronics and IT, industry leaders, and senior government officials in 2018. It's a joint initiative of Ministry of Electronics and IT and NASSCOM. The purpose of Future Skills Prime platform is to provide interested candidates with multiple options for their skilling needs. We're also going to talk about digital literacy here. So to further aid digital adoption, the Ministry of Electronics and IT has focused on digital literacy for citizens since 2014 across the country, especially in rural areas. MIT has taken a few initiatives to bridge the digital divide in the country. Those are National Digital Literacy Mission, Digital Saksharta Abhiyan, and Pradhan Mantri Gramin Digital Saksharta Abhiyan. We will learn more about these initiatives in this thematic session from our esteemed leaders from the skilling ecosystem, sharing their experience and knowledge on India's evolutionary journey on skilling, product features and architecture, regulatory support, globalization efforts, and deep tech innovation. With that, I'd like to welcome our speakers, starting with Mr. Hemang Jani. Mr. Hemang Jani is an experienced professional in public policy, governance, and innovation systems. He's currently acting as the Secretary for Capacity Building Commission. Before joining as the Secretary for the Capacity Building Commission, he worked as a senior private sector specialist at the World Bank headquarters in Washington, D.C., USA. He's also worked with the Government of India as an officer on special duty in the Prime Minister's office. Mr. Jani will be speaking on the topic Capacity Building Through Technology and iGOT. We have with us Ms. Dipali Upadhyay. Ms. Dipali is currently posted as a Program Director for Atal Innovation Mission at NITI Aayog. In her role, she manages the Atal Tinkering Labs program, which is the flagship initiative of AIM, to nurture an innovative mindset amongst high school students across the length and breadth of India. Prior to this, she has led global business transformations, technology, skilling, and innovation programs in public services, resources, manufacturing, banking, and IT industries. Ms. Dipali will be sharing more information on what Atal Tinkering Labs has been doing. We have with us Ms. Kirti Seth, CEO NASSCOM for Future Skills. Ms. Kirti holds over 30 years of rich experience in entrepreneurship, management, and driving change. She is the CEO for the ITES Sector Skills Council at NASSCOM. As a part of her role, she drives the prestigious Future Skills Prime project, a digital skilling initiative that is partnership between the Government of India and NASSCOM, with an ambitious goal of making India the digital talent hub for the world. Ms. Kirti will be talking more about Future Skills Prime. We have with us Dr. Jaideep Kumar Mishra. Dr. Mishra is an additional secretary in the MIT in Government of India and heads the division of R&D, IT manpower development, and internet governance in my team. He's also currently the vice chair at the Government Advisory Committee of the ICANN that manages the global internet. He leads the flagship scheme of Government of India, the Pradhan Mantri Gramin Digital Saksharta Abhiyan, which is globally the largest digital literacy scheme for imparting digital literacy in rural areas, while also empowering them to use the internet technologies for accessing various government services. Mr. Jaideep Kumar Mishra is not just the speaker, but also the moderator of the session, and he'll also be talking about more on digital literacy. With that, I'm gonna request Mr. Mishra to take over the stage and commence the session.
Okay, namaskar. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Anjali, for the introductions for this session on digital skilling and the related technology stack. As most of you are aware, the skilling and IT for jobs is one of the pillars of the Digital India scheme of the Government of India, which was launched by our Honorable Prime Minister in 2014 and formally commenced from 1st of July 2015. We just recently, in this week itself, we celebrated our seventh, you can say, anniversary of completion of the Digital India scheme. And we were extremely honored because the Prime Minister himself was there to celebrate and to inaugurate the event. So the Digital India scheme is a flagship program of the Government of India with a vision to transform India into a digitally empowered society and knowledge economy. The scheme has led to a massive impact in our entire ecosystem and greatly enhanced our ease of life. The success of Aadhaar, GST, UPI, and permeation of mobile phones in our society and our country has progressed from connectivity-starved one to having the highest per capita data consumption and one of the lowest rates of per gigabyte of mobile data in the world. Riding on the growing robust infrastructure, which has led to platformization of our domain sectors, our country is geared towards achieving the $1 trillion digital economy in the coming years. The unique aspect of our growth has been that the public digital infrastructure is very contextual to our Indian needs, designed for a diverse society with a wide continuum of digital skills and to solve specific local problems. Today's session on technology stack for the skilling intends to cover the various aspects of digital skilling ecosystem. This would include sharing both the skilling efforts in digital technologies as well as the use of digital technologies for empowering and skilling the workforce to make them more efficient and effective. For a vast and diverse country like ours, the optimum utilization of the public digital infrastructure can happen only by bridging the digital divide and by reaching the unreached. However, traditional literacy that we are all familiar with, which is the ability to read the books, is not enough in current times. And there is therefore an urgent need to acquire digital or foundational literacy as well. So I'd just like to share that according to the survey that was done by the National Sample Survey Office in 2014, in the urban areas, under 50%, actually about 48.9% of the people in the age group from 14 to 29 only were able to operate a computer. For those between the ages of 30 to 45, the number stood at 24.3% only. However, most alarmingly for the age group of 40 to 60 year age group, only 14% people were able to use. And those greater than 60%, just 6.7% of our people were able to work on a computer in 2014 survey. So this number went down even sharply, very sharply, when the rural areas were surveyed. And as a result of overall, if you would see, only in about 18.3% young people between the age of 14 to 29 were able to use a computer at that point of time. And if you would look down further, the number fell further for the later age groups and fell to less than 1% of those under 46 of age in the rural areas. So you can see the wide disparity that we had and the abysmally low numbers that we had on people who could use computers and foundational or digital literacy, as you would call it. So to address this huge concern, several steps were taken by the government, especially to bridge the digital literacy divide. So I think even Anjali briefly mentioned, from the initial years of 2014 to 2016, two schemes, one titled National Digital Literacy Mission, NDLM, and a second titled Digital Saksharta Abhiyan, DISHA, were implemented by METI, through which over more than about 55 lakh candidates were trained in digital literacy across the country. However, these numbers are quite small for the size of our country. And therefore, keeping this in view, the government, and especially the government's focus and thrust on the rural areas, METI and the Government of India launched the Pradhan Mantri Gramin Digital Saksharta Abhiyan, or the PMG Disha as we are aware of, in 2017 to usher in digital literacy in the rural areas for covering the 6 crore rural households, with at least one person per household to be made digitally literate. Under the PMG Disha digital literacy, we have defined it as the ability of individuals and communities to understand and use digital technologies for meaningful actions within life situations. So this is the definition, and I'm sure as you may have seen some definitions of digital literacy varying from place to place, even countries to countries. This is the one we adopted, in which we are trying to focus on people being enabled to do meaningful actions and take actions within the life situation. So this basically implies that, and it means that people have to have skills that we need to learn, that we need to live, to learn, to work in a society where communication and access to information are dependent on digital technologies like internet platforms, social media, and mobile devices. As on date, more than 6 crore registrations have already been completed in the PMG Disha, and nearly 4 crore citizens have been certified after passing the requisite examination, which is conducted in a very unique proctored mode through our independent assessment agencies. So it is, I think it is very interesting to note that even before the advent of the pandemic, when it came in and a lot of us had to move on to other learning platforms and mobile and online platforms, PMG Disha was possibly one of the schemes which was challenged because we had to conduct examinations at the village level, at the Gram Panchayat level, at the village levels. So this unique system of a remote proctored examination system was first of all implemented to this large scales in this country, and for which a lot of technology had to be built in. And through the CSC framework that the trainings that were imparted through the CSCs at the grassroots level, the examinations were conducted in a remote proctored mechanism with examinees sitting at a different settings and through 5 different entities sitting in New Delhi, sitting in and spread all over India, but not at the grassroots level. But they were able to closely watch the examinations that were going on through this platform that was created. And so as a result of which, not just the government work, but in this, we actually worked on a very true spirit of a public-private partnership model. And lot of other organizations like Intel, HP, NASCOM Foundation, IGNU, NISBERT, IIMC, the 2 of METI centers, both NILET, which is the National Institute of Electronics and IT, and the CDAC centers were all engaged in this massive mammoth exercise through which we were imparting digital literacy at the grassroots level. So the digital literacy and awareness at the foundational level encompasses several stakeholders. These include the citizens in our villages at the Gram Panchayat levels engaged in their various activities. It also includes our elderly and senior citizens needing to be digitally aware to be able to use technology and reap its benefit for the ease of living, especially in their fragile age. In addition, digital skills are most crucial for our children, especially in the rural areas, so that their foundational levels are strong and they are able to climb up the ladders of the higher level skills in design and innovation. In this regard, the new education policy also orients and brings in an orientation towards the skilling in the entire education system. And this is extremely relevant and critical to nurture the ecosystem for education and learning in the country. Keeping these aspects in mind, our ministry has also focused on various initiatives in the education and capacity building domain as well. In this context, the awareness and skilling programs for school children, which are now being aligned to the NEP. And so there are several skilling programs which we were otherwise administering. For example, the NILET's CCC programs, which we were doing as a hardcore skilling programs, are now being brought down to the school levels also, and children starting from class 8th onwards are being encouraged to take up these programs at modular level. So starting from the school children climbing up, we have programs that we have developed and implemented for training of teachers in the schools, school children even in metros and in urban areas, in sensitizing them on cybersecurity aspects, which are extremely crucial. And they are able to also take up further skilling courses in cybersecurity areas, which is in upcoming areas. We also run a program for the faculties through our 7 ICT academies that we have created using our top level institutions of IITs, where we have developed programs in these areas. And we are for other faculty members of other engineering colleges, and which we are able to impart using our NKN network. and able to connect to them and reach out to these faculty members and train them in emerging areas of technology. So using a lot of technology for making this available for the faculties and being able to reach out to them. And lastly, we have also extensively developed a lot of training capacity building programs in niche areas in emerging technologies in IT, electronics. And we have a program called a Vishweshwarya PhD scheme, which aims to train people and capacity building at doctorate and even at postdoctorate level for them. So several of these programs have been rolled out by the Ministry of Electronics and IT, and details of these are available on the ministry websites. So I'll encourage all of you to please browse through it for further details that you may require. So even as the government has been engaged in these foundational level programs towards digital literacy, the technology ecosystem has rapidly advanced. In these times of rapid change, it is extremely important for a country like ours to adapt to this scenario. And while the government mandate has been for growing needs basically and developing and ensuring that both the grassroots levels are also there, there has been a growing need for us for casting into India talent nation, so that our workforce, which has traditionally been very strong contributor in the IT space, can also drive the global ecosystem, both in traditional and more so in the emerging technologies. It is expected that driven by adoption of digital technology, the total addressable market for technology would continue to rise exponentially as the IT industry in India continues to be a net hirer with talent acquisition across various sectors. So India has performed quite well over the last few years on multiple aspects of digitalization, thanks to a combination of government action, business innovation, and investment. And India emerges as a leader in some of the foundation elements, but has scope to basically grow many more aspects and to reach value. We have one of the largest workforce. Actually, currently we are the largest young workforce that we are there. We are one of the youngest populations in our at our college level and 20 to 25 age groups. And this is against an aging workforce of the developed economies. So we need to basically reap the benefits of our demographic dividends through this young and dynamic workforce, especially in the IT sector, and be able to take the frontier seat among all the people who are able to produce and take technology into the next domains and next frontiers of technology. The emergence of technologies like artificial intelligence, robotic process automation, natural language processing, machine learning, etc., are advancing businesses and lifestyles at a rapid pace. The job scenario in the India's IT industry, which I'm sure Kirti also in her presentation will cover briefly, is undergoing a transformation due to the adoption of this automation and the emergence of new technologies, including the disruptive technologies. Due to these new job roles requiring different skill sets are appearing, and earlier jobs based on older skill sets are losing the relevance. Success in this era demands a new type of leadership and a new way of working, as finding and retaining the right talent requires specialized roles, remote staffing, and decentralization of operations. Further, the modes of delivery are also undergoing changes. As a result of the pandemic, which we are all seen and undergone ourselves, there is further acceleration in the virtual learning environment, even in the post-pandemic times, because earlier it was thought that we are using it as a stopgap. But I think everybody is now very much familiar and seen what are the advantages of such a virtual learning environment. And it will be really challenging to maintain physical training infrastructures to match the emerging technical requirements due to the high rate of technical obsolescence coupled with faster peaking of newer technologies appearing on the horizon. Hence, offering students an additional choice of online platforms for learning with multiple skilling options would be a better choice to encourage anytime, anywhere, self-paced learning for acquiring newer and industry-relevant skill sets. In line with some of these imperatives, METI, I think also Deepali mentioned, we have collaborated very actively with NASSCOM and launched the Future Skills Prime project, which is basically the B2C. The B2B, the Future Skills project was already there. The Future Skills Prime project, which the government partnered with METI and the Honorable Prime Minister was there for inauguration, is the B2C component of it, and which has very many unique features and a framework for reskilling, upskilling of IT professionals, which an aggregator of aggregator, and I'm sure I'll leave it for Kirti to basically delve more into this and share with the participants about this unique model that has been created through an active industry, and government industry partnership. And basically then I'd like to sum up onto what I've been speaking and would like to emphasize that the government has essentially adopted a twin-pronged approach while enabling greater digital literacy for imparting foundational level digital skills at the grassroots level, while equally encouraging the skilling and capacity building in electronics and IT domaining in both the high-end kind of a design and skilled manufacturing sectors. The vision is to make India a skilled nation in the global scenario with extremely skilled workforce in this domain, not only to meet the requirements of our own country, but the entire world. Finally, with the recently announced Academic Bank of Credits and the NEPs, greater convergence with the academic and the skilling ecosystem has been envisaged. And this has offered several opportunities for us to better deliver the intended outcomes. And I'm sure that the following part of the sessions, when we have our experts, we shall be bringing out all these aspects in greater depths and offer greater details about these possibilities that are there. It is a matter of great privilege for me today that, and for all of us here, that we are joined by some select domain experts in the field of skilling. Among these experts, the complete technology stack pertaining to digital skilling, spreading across the three major components, the industry, the government, the schools and the academia will be covered. And so we are actually extremely delighted that we'll be able to offer all the three important components in one session today. And I think since I have been given the task of the moderator also, I would like to, set the ball in motion. And first of all, I'd like to invite Shri Hemant Jani, the Secretary of the Capacity Building Commission, to share with us his vision and thoughts about this sector, how the newly created Capacity Building Commission is gearing towards meeting the challenges that are there, because government itself is just, I'm sure is just a very critical sector, but the repercussions and the leveraging on the government sector is where the entire country tends to benefit. So over to you, Jani sir, for your address and sharing with the participants. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mishra. First of all, thank you very much to the mighty team, because they always come out with wonderful knowledge sharing opportunities for all of us in government as well. And of course, industry always appreciates that. So thank you for creating this Digital India Week, during this Digital India Week, this knowledge exchange opportunity. I'd also like to say hello to Kirti and Dipali and my fellow panel members today. Nice to see, and I can see Sonal and Anjali, everybody from AT there. And I can see a lot of people from industry and everywhere have joined. Let me start with a small story. We recently saw Matrix Resurrection, the third Matrix movie has been launched, and many of us went and watched that. If I remember a story from the first Matrix movie, and I'm sure many of us who watched it will remember, when Trinity jumps from a building into a helicopter in a chopper, and she suddenly realizes that she doesn't know how to fly this chopper, and she calls the backend that, hey, can you tell me how to fly this chopper? And the backend team from the world, they sends her a program. And in 3 seconds, she receives this program and she starts flying the chopper, and she saves Neo from falling from that building. Now, this is what happens to all of us, aptly called as adult learners. We don't learn when we are given an opportunity. We only learn when it is utmost compulsory. We need to learn something. So today, if I am put in a condition where I have to use this Zoom call and I have to use this virtual background sent by Sonal, that you have to use this virtual background, I have to learn how to operate this platform, and I have to put this virtual background, right? So adults learn when they need to learn the most. Adults also don't learn in very lengthy ways. Adults learn in very small chunks. You know, if you send me a WhatsApp video of 3 minutes, I will watch it and I will learn how to operate some new platform or new app. If you send me a small note of say 500 words, I will read it and I will understand it. And more so, many civil servants, many busy civil servants like Mr. Mishra and others who have lot on their plate every day, they also learn this way. And that is the essence of using technology for capacity building in government. We want to make learning available 24/7 in small chunks, without place agnostic, wherever the civil servants are and whenever they need. So that is the essence of capacity building through digital technology. I will also take this opportunity to run 2 slides on the Mission Karmayogi because it is a new program and everybody is curious about what Mission Karmayogi is. Next, please. Government of India announced a national program for civil service capacity building. This is one of its kind program that has been globally launched in say last 2 decades. There have been not many such large civil service capacity building or civil service reform program launched recently. As part of the program, Capacity Building Commission, which is a policy and standard setting body, was announced. And the part relevant for today's talk is the special purpose vehicle, which is Karmayogi Bharat Corporation, and which will host Government of India's online training platform called iGOT, Integrated Government Online Training Platform, which will be hosted. Next, please. The Commission is working on both the supply side and the demand side of capacity building. Now, just to put things in context, India today has 13 million online learners, and we are second largest in the world. The only country which is ahead of us is US with 17 million learners. And this is all thanks to the pandemic period we experienced last year. And these are still very small learners, small numbers. The third number is Mexico with 4 million online learners. So you can see the gap. And within this year, perhaps India will surpass and become the number one in online learners, the active learners who are taking certificates on the platforms like edX and Coursera. So these are the numbers. But if you look at the number of civil servants, India in central government only has 3 million civil servants. And if we put together all state governments and all public sector units and Panchayati Raj institutions, there are 30 million civil servants in India. And to cater to these 30 million civil servants, we have a bunch of training institutions. Now, all of us have heard of the famous Lal Bahadur Shastri Academy in Mussoorie, but there are 25 such top academies in the country, with NADT in Nagpur, Nasin in Faridabad, Police Academy in Hyderabad. Each state has one training institution for training the state cadres. So we know the state public service cadres. So 33 such state level academies are there. But there are 750 other training institutions which are attached to some department, some ministry, some organization. And all of them, they serve as the supply side for capacity building in the government. On the demand side, I have 60 ministries, 93 departments, and close to 2,600 different agencies like METI in Government of India only. And they host these 3 million civil servants for which we have to create capacity building opportunities and per se the training programs. This is the scope with which we are working. And that is where our Honorable Prime Minister wanted that all of this capacity building of 3 million program cannot happen in physical form as it is happening. And I will also talk about the problems with the only physical setup that we have today. And that is where Honorable Prime Minister gave us an ambitious target that can you create an online training platform for whole of government, which can serve every capacity building need of a government of India or a state government employee. And with that ambition, the iGOT platform was launched, which is right now already running in beta form. We are testing it. We are piloting a lot of things on that platform, but which will soon be launched in a full-fledged with all the stacks, which I will talk. Next, please. So this is the background. Now, let me come to the current model of capacity building, or loosely if we use word training in government. Traditionally, it is a very resource intensive model. We have these 800 training institutions spend close to $1 billion, like 6,000 crores of revenue on this training, which has around 20,000 acres of land. So it is a very resource intensive physical format. A trainer or trainee has to go to that place. So you have to travel to Shimla or Mussoorie or Hyderabad to take a 2 days training program and take leave from your present job wherever you are working. Second, there is very insufficient focus right now on the on-the-job learning. And research suggests that learners, they learn the most, or 70% of learning happens through peers, through experiences, through immersion, and which is largely on the job. You learn as you go. And the third issue is that there are so many training institutions, small, spread across the country. So there is not a lot of coordination or collaboration among them. So if we have a very good program created by some training academy in, say, Nagpur or say in Hyderabad, somebody in Shimla or Faridabad, they don't know about it. So, or they get to know about it, say, after 3 years, and they can adopt it. So a lot of collaboration is also doesn't happen. Again, the one size fits approach, there is not a lot of customization that happens today. And if we have an online platform, we can do a lot of customization. We can also receive a lot of customized feedback and then bridge the gap. Of course, the key focus of our program is to build one's competencies and expertise, and which is not incentivized today. So today what happens, and many of my fellow civil servants, they will appreciate it more than, and in fact, in many of the private sector organization also, you will see, you will receive a list of training programs that, hey, these are the training programs on these dates in this academy, they are available, and do you want to go and teach that? But nobody comes and asks you that, hey, what kind of a training program and what kind of knowledge would you require? So the training need assessment or identifying the need for training or capacity building is largely missing. Of course, I'm not saying that these programs are not designed based on very rigorous analysis, but they are then generalized. The one size fits all happens at that point. And that is what can be avoided in an online training platform. We can have a lot of customization. If one person wants one module or needs one module, we can offer that. If the other person doesn't need, and of course, Future Skill is following many of these principles for their skilling programs. I have seen the platform while creating the iGOT platform. And of course, the post-training support, which is very crucial. You know, when we go to a medical doctor or when we go to a hospital, we take care of post treatment or post surgery very, very carefully. But after we come back from a training program, at the most what we do is we keep in touch with a fellow trainee who on WhatsApp, whom we met for the first time and whom we liked. So that is where we also think that the online platforms will enable and help us in post-training support as well. Next, please. Next, please. See, all of our capacity building and training, we follow 3 lenses very rigorously. One is there has to be a strong connect to the national priorities. So if we are talking about Swachh Bharat, Digital India, digital health, housing for all, how do we create programs which are bridging these competency gaps, and which becomes very easy in an online mode? Again, second lens which we operate through is the citizen centricity lens. That how do we create a lot of functional and behavioral competency based programs which are available to every civil servant. So if you want to say learn how to operate some commands in PowerPoint, or how to operate some commands in Excel, that should be available online. And the third is emerging technology. Emerging technology is creating a lot of opportunities and a lot of solutions. But as public servants, we are not aware, or even if we are aware, we don't know how to adopt or absorb them or how to appreciate them. And that is where also the competency building or capacity building products that we offer on iGOT will be very useful. Next, please. The most important slide on which I want to concentrate. Next slide, please, Akshita. On the iGOT. So iGOT is not just the learning platform. It has 6 hubs, and it is very interesting that in private sector, many of the people who have joined from private sector today, they will all have gone to their learning management system on their company portal and taken some courses. But the way iGOT has been designed, iGOT does a lot more than a learning management system. So the first of all, we have a learning hub which will facilitate the competency building through online courses and even blended courses. In Australia, a company has quoted a phrase called phygital, which is the mix of physical and digital training. and we use that phrase very generously, that a lot of government to government capacity building has to happen in phygital form now. So we will have to develop many courses, and the learning hub on iGOT will enable that. But as I mentioned, a lot of learning happens through peer-to-peer discussion and coordination, and that is why iGOT also has a discussion hub. You can imagine that you have your own Jabber kind of a network, or your own Quora kind of a network within the government setup, where one municipal corporation talk to other municipal corporation engineer saying that, hey, what have you used in this road technology? We heard that you have done used some new technology. Can you tell us about it? Something like that. The iGOT will also have a networking hub. A lot of networking currently happens only on mobile and other platforms. But how can you have structured, and how can you have focused networking? Today we know that we network a lot on platforms like LinkedIn. And of course, after this panel, maybe 3 of us panel members who didn't know each other will go and we'll click on our LinkedIn and send a request that, hey, let's get connected, right? But how can a government employee sitting in Hyderabad, in say finance department of Hyderabad, network with a finance department person in Karnataka, or in say Shimla, or in say Jammu and Kashmir? iGOT will enable that. Currently, that doesn't happen a lot. We have many platforms where, the cadres or the particular training institution, they have their platform or they have their groups where people coordinate. A very strong focus is on competencies, because as I already mentioned, capacity building has to become focused. And the future skills of the future, or skills of 21st century, requires a lot of customization, lot of technology. So one of the big focus on the iGOT is how to identify competencies required for each role, and then create products which can bridge the gaps through that competency hub. So the first point there is to start with a competency hub where competencies of each role, all three, functional, domain, and behavioral competencies required, are identified first, and then the gap is identified. So there is a very strong competency hub which will be enabled on iGOT. A career hub. Today in private sector, if we want a new job, we go on a Naukri or a similar platform, right? In government, there is no such hub. On DOPT website, many of the postings, or on different ministries and departments website, many of the opportunities that are available, they are published, and everybody has to see. In future, we are building these lot of competencies in civil servants. So in future, the ambition is that there will be a career hub where lot of career opportunities for shift within the government will be available. And there a learner can learn and build competencies looking at the trends, at which kind of opportunities are coming up, and they can take this. And the final last hub is the event hub. For example, today's event, a lot of fellow civil servants or a lot of fellow government employees will not know about it. We'll only know about it only through MyGov and other platforms, which are very strong. People are using it. But now we are making it available on iGOT. So a lot of such events will be available for enrolling and for even participating on iGOT. So these are the 6 hubs. This is how the iGOT's imagination and design has been done. The learning hub is already launched in beta form, which will be available. Akshita, you'll have to stop that for a second. So I wanted to give 2 examples. What we are doing now, we are creating a lot of pilots in various government departments. And everywhere you will see, when we talk about an online program, people think that a YouTube video or a video recorded training is what the digital training is. But we also want to educate every government training academy and department that actually digital programs are designed very scientifically by providing a lot of inputs to the designer, and by using a lot of adult learning and digital learning principles, by using a lot of construction design science. And we have created some pilots with the finance ministry, and I will show 2 videos and then they will stop, and so that we can get into the discussion more. This is a course that was created by INGAF, one of the finance ministry's division, on the fundamental rules and supplementary rules of the GFR. Can you show the flipbook, please? So this is a simple flipbook format where you can flip the book and read and then see some videos in between, and also go and give one assessment. So see some, do some self-assessment with the questions. And the next video that we have is on a level 3, a slightly higher complexity level program, where learners can go on that platform and can create the, provide a lot of self-assessment and a lot of interactive way, learn in a very interactive way. Next, please.
Hello, my name is Shahid. I am Deputy Director at the Institute of Government Accounts and Finance, or INGAF in short.
Namaskar, I am Vijay Kumar Kesri, Assistant Accounts Officer, presently attached to INGAF as a course mentor for creating course on FRSR Part 3 Leave Rules under Mission Karmayogi.
So this you can see a lot of scenarios and lot of interactive learning happens, and then you can also see and download the forms. Then you can also do a self-assessment what you learned. Next, please.
Welcome to the
This
unit
is another
on General
program
System
created
for
on
Financial
general
Management.
financial
This unit
management.
addresses
Go ahead, please.
the important question. Why is there a general system for financial management? What are the general principles related to financial management? And what if the rules and procedures are not adhered to? Click Start to begin. On learning this unit, you will be able to recognize the need for a system of financial management in government, identify principles related to collection of government revenue, define the standards of financial propriety, list the conditions to be satisfied before incurring expenditure from public money, describe the procedure for issue of financial sanction, and explain what happens if a sanction is not acted upon. Financial management is a critical capability for government.
I think
deals with
Achita, you can end the presentation. So as I said, a lot of piloting is being done on iGOT platform, and those who are joining from private sector, a lot of opportunity is also available for creating online courses for many of the government departments. We already have a request for proposal on our website. You can go to cbc.gov.in for empaneling the digital learning creators and also capacity building product creators. So this is what I wanted to talk about iGOT. I would be very happy to take any questions later in the session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Janiji. It's a very insightful and very interesting presentation. Personally, on the personal front, I'm extremely happy because the 2 institutions, that INGAF and NIFM, I have gone through both of those trainings, so I know very well. So it's a really very, encouraging to see that our institutions, especially the finance ministry ones, are the front leaders, because I'm sure if they are featuring in your presentation, they are the pioneers in this domain. So it's really very happy thoughts. And I think also some of those interesting, but as you said, I think we'll take the questions towards the later part when all the speakers have gone through. I'm sure there'll be many more in this as to how to take this forward, what are your otherwise plans, and also we can come to them. Now, I think moving on from the government sector, let's move to the core of what we are and the future of what the country lies in, and I'll move on to the education sector. And I'll invite Deepali with all the school children and all the innovations that are being done through the Atal Innovation Mission and the tinkering labs and all, because that is where the heart of India and that's where the future of our country lies. And whatever you are doing is absolutely the crucial and most critical part of where the hope lies for the entire country and how we are able to bridge between what we are doing now and what are the expectations for the India as a skill talent nation of the world in the next decade. I mean, this is a decade that has been announced. So where does this lead to? So I'll invite Deepali Upadhyay ji to share her views and share with us, all the participants here, as to what are the plans in this sector, what efforts are being made, what is the strategy as to how you will handle this entire crucial, the feeder source for all our what the country is there to enable us, our children, to be the best trained in the frontier areas. Over to you, Deepali.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jaideep. And again, a very big gratitude to MIT for organizing a conversation to this effect and such a platform being instituted. Also to all the fellow panelists, such a great panel we have here today, covering the entire spectrum that is potentially the propeller for India to be the technology, innovation, skills hub of the future of the world. With that, I'll start off. Can I share my screen for a brief presentation? Let me see. Is that visible? Yeah, okay. All right, so my name is Deepali Upadhyay. I'm representing the Atal Innovation Mission, which is a flagship initiative of the Niti Aayog, Government of India. And as the name suggests, the Atal Innovation Mission, it is truly an umbrella body driving innovation across the country, and to through its various programs, Atal Tinkering Labs being one of them, but through its multiple programs focusing towards startups, towards young innovators across the country, towards unique challenges that India faces, or the globe faces rather, focusing towards them and innovations and encouraging that through its various schemes and initiatives is what Atal Innovation Mission is about. I'm here to talk today about the Atal Tinkering Labs program, which is our flagship initiative again for the Innovation Mission, Atal Innovation Mission, focusing towards young students, and more specifically towards students from grade 6 to 12 across the country. And it cannot be underscored enough and mentioned enough that how this really is the foundation. This is where the shift will happen. This is where the change will happen when we reach young students, when we inculcate these skills in young students, skills that adults are learning. Mr. Hemang was sharing how we're trying to train the government workforce. We're trying to train bureaucrats on how to unlearn and learn again when we talk about digital skilling. And that's exactly what we are trying to do right from a young age. Students are getting that opportunity through these tinkering labs. And the main focus for these tinkering labs is to inculcate these skills of curiosity, creativity, imagination, design thinking, computational thinking, 21st century technology skills among students at a young age, and eventually, drive that mindset among students of innovating, of being job creators rather than job seekers, of learning through an experiential manner rather than rote learning, of solving problems around them in their communities, and not be one of the complainants, but rather taking action. That's the idea behind the Atal Tinkering Labs mission. And so far, with our efforts over the last 6 years, and the government in collaboration. Now, this is a great example also of the collaboration that has taken place between government, industry, academia, all put together to create such a huge movement. The Atal Tinkering Labs movement is the largest in terms of scale in the world. So we are really a front runner. We are really, changing the game when it comes to creating such a thing at the scale across the world. With more than 9,800 labs across the country in schools, government schools being over 60% of those labs being in government or government-aided schools, and across more than 700 districts across the country. This is truly a thing that we as a country should be proud of, that we're able to inculcate these skills among school students through these labs, and are first in the world. let me share broadly what this really means with these labs, and what is this support that the scheme provides and that the government is trying to do through the Atal Innovation Mission. These are essentially maker spaces in schools, and these maker spaces are really flexible environments where students can tinker, can learn by doing, can use various equipments and do-it-yourself kits that are provided in these labs for students to tinker with, to learn basic concepts that they have in their curriculum through these labs, and be able to apply those concepts for solving community problems. That's the idea behind these labs. They are usually in a space of 1,500 square feet for plains, and there is some relaxation for hilly regions. And there are certain criteria on which the selection is done. A huge round of applications and selection rounds have taken place multiple times over the last few years to be able to be in a stage where we are now more than 9,800. Our mandate is to have 10,000 labs as of now across the country, and we're very close to that mandate. As we've grown to such a huge number, we've realized multiple things along the journey, and we've learned a lot of lessons. We've been agile in that way in terms of incorporating newer things as we've grown into this. Technology being a very, very important aspect of it. So when we first started off, for us, these were maker spaces, a physical space, and nothing can really take away the benefits of physical, be it meeting people physically, be it working together physically, be it really trying something by doing it yourself rather than virtual. But having said that, we are in times where it may not always be feasible, and there are so many things now enabling the merging of virtual to physical with technologies such as AR, VR. There are multiple such opportunities where this can be done virtually as well. However, with these labs, the first idea is that they first experience it themselves through these lab spaces. Like I said, we are more than 9,800 plus labs. Just sharing where we stand right now, over 75 lakh students are engaged through these tinkering labs, and this is just an initial number, but it grows every day. The number of students who experience a tinkering lab. There are more than 100 online sessions that are taking place throughout the year with students to skill them on 21st century skills. So with over 14 learning modules that we've curated, some in collaboration with industry partners and experts, including NASSCOM. For example, we've developed the AI module for students in collaboration with NASSCOM. We've developed the gaming module in collaboration with Dell Technologies. We've developed multiple modules and platforms in collaboration with our industry partners like IBM and Adobe, etc. So, this is basically a consolidated effort coming from government and industry to come together towards such an important initiative and cause. And to encourage learning in terms of 21st century skills, these modules play a very important and vital role, because apart from these labs, being there as a physical space, it has to be supplemented with the right skilling, which is through these learning modules covering various topics such as design thinking, IoT, AI, robotics, gaming, coding, CAD, which is in collaboration with NIC. So again, these modules and the workshops that take place throughout the year towards skilling students, every week there is an initiative, or every week there is a workshop with industry partners or centrally run by AIM towards skilling these students, which is what is creating a huge impact across these tinkering labs. And to be able to really see, the fruits of this learning, there are hackathons that are conducted by us throughout the year. So more than 30 challenges have been conducted. And these are some huge challenges which receive thousands of entries from school students and participation from school students with innovations in problems of national and international relevance, such as problems linked to the Atmanirbhar Bharat themes, problem statements linked to the Sustainable Development Goals, and students coming up with very unique initiatives and solutions to these problems. Now, supplementing all of this is a very, very important backbone that we've built, which is through the mentor network. And these are industry and academic professionals who are supporting tinkering labs and mentoring students across the country. More than 5,500 such mentors have joined this movement and are the mentors of change with Niti Aayog, who are helping drive such a movement at a national scale. And of course, the support from partners, over 25 plus partners who are helping us. Talking about the journey of an ATL, it starts with the establishment of an ATL, but that's the very small part, I would say, of the entire journey. The major role or part comes in actually engaging these students and ensuring that there is optimum utilization of these labs and there is a constant learning that takes place for students as well as teachers, because we do realize a very important stakeholder in this are teachers, and their skilling is extremely important. So a lot of focus is given towards teacher training, towards student skilling through these labs and through the virtual learning content and technology and platforms that we've developed. So how we're able to do this at such a huge scale, and that's where the technology stack comes in, is that, to reach 10,000 plus schools, which we will be soon, but even to reach the current numbers that we have and to really constantly stay engaged and, keep them motivated, monitor them, work with them closely across the year, we are reliant and dependent on technology and platforms that we've developed, again, with the government as well as external partner support. We've been able to create a lot of platforms, right from the very selection and establishment happening through these online platforms, the constant monitoring and evaluation happening through online dashboards and platforms that we've developed. There's a platform for mentors where they actually do knowledge sharing, communicate with each other, share and record their sessions through the mentor platform that we have. There are also a lot of guidance and documents and query management related platforms that we have that help keep a strong connect between schools as well as Atal Innovation Mission and the government. Throughout the year, there are a huge number of activities and competitions. These are just very few, but this is what we do in terms of engaging students through a whole calendar of activities. Every month is dedicated towards a digital skill, towards 21st century technology, and skilling them towards innovation and entrepreneurship. So every month is dedicated in the calendar of activities, and focusing mainly on 2-3 grand initiatives through the year, which involve community, which involve ATL students, and which involve ATL teachers. So driving them through some major initiatives as well as monthly themes that we have. The ATL ecosystem, like I said, is a combination of multiple players. It's the principals, it's the teachers, the parents, the community students. There are various international collaborations also, and this we see as it plays a major role in terms of giving that exposure to students in our country, where they're able to collaborate with students from other countries. And that's a huge amount of learning that takes place through such cross-country collaborations and boot camps that we organize. A lot of collaboration when it comes to working with the central institutions, be it the central boards, state boards, and the Central Ministry of Education. So working with all three in terms of really mainstreaming, working towards how these curriculum and skills and the whole concept of tinkering and innovation can be modularized for the education system. We, as Tinkering Labs and as an initiative, as a program, have been a front runner of the National Education Policy 2020. And we're trying to drive that in a larger way. With 10,000 labs, we know that we've just touched the tip of the iceberg. We have a huge way to go with more than 250,000 secondary schools and senior secondary schools across the country. There's a huge opportunity area, and we know that there's a huge path to cross, but this is a great starting point with so many labs covering so many districts. And with all the collaborations that we have, there are multiple initiatives that are run. So apart from just skilling them, how do you take that journey ahead for students and get them future ready, get them ready for the future of workforce, get them ready for the requirements that the country or the globe will be dealing with in terms of
I think, is there some technical issue at Dipali's side, right?
Yes, I think her screen has frozen.
I think maybe we'll just, let's see for 30 seconds, otherwise we can move on to the next. Yeah, Dipali, you are there back, I think, right?
Yes, sorry, I got dropped off. Yeah.
So
one of the things you have to solve still.
Is your presentation there, or do we move on with your presentation, or we are done?
Yeah, I will just reshare my screen.
Sure. Try and conclude in next 2-3 minutes. Huh?
Sure. Just coming back to where I was in terms of this, various programs that are being done for students, be it the internship program or the entrepreneurship program, which are all driving towards, giving an exposure through a boot camp to students on what it's like to be a real entrepreneur, what it is like to be an innovator, and taking the whole journey ahead, right? Not just leaving it at skilling, but really converging into an innovator of the future or an entrepreneur of the future. With that, I will just conclude saying that there are a lot of initiatives, a lot of
I think we seem to have lost her video again. I think we can move on then, because I think she had already concluded. So, Dipali, are you there? So I think while Dipali is reconnecting, since she had concluded, maybe we can leave a few questions for her towards the later side. But I think, although I wish Dipali is able to hear us, but I wish you have the Atal Tinkering Labs in all the schools and not just in 10,000 of them. I'm sure there may be more questions on that also, but it was still a very interesting one, and it gives us a good flavor of how Dipali. So I think you are back, but I think you had concluded. So I'm just trying to thank you on.
Yes. Please.
And I mean, I'm sure on behalf of other participants also, there'll be more questions, but we were just hoping that you'll extend this to not just 10,000 schools, but to all the other schools possible in India, and so that everybody, all the children, especially in the rural areas who otherwise don't have access and they have limitations, at least the school is able to take care of all those requirements and help them climb up the ladder and being able to well connected with the entire aspirations of the larger society. So thank you. And I think now we'll move on to the industry side, the action on the industry side, and to learn about the technology driven skilling ecosystem which has been deployed by the IT industry to produce world-class professionals, and in the hope that we'll soon become the skill talent nation of the world. And so I'll request Ms. Kirti Seth, the CEO of NASSCOM ITIS Sector Skill Council, to share with us the developments, the initiatives, the plans of the Sector Skill Council, and how things will look for us by the end of this decade, say by 2030 or whatever. I know it is extremely difficult to predict how things will be in this rapidly changing technology environment, but still, if anything that you can share with us and whatever is there on the technology side. So over to you, Kirti. Thank you.
Thank you. Namaste, everybody. So, very exciting session because it just shows the entire gamut of what we are doing to establish India as a digital talent nation. I mean, the topic of this session is India's Stack Knowledge Exchange. And seeing all that is going on, it's really a very holistic approach that is going on. So before I jump into what is happening, I think it's really, based on what Dr. Mishra started out his introduction with, and he was talking about the context, and he kept saying, Kirti will tell you about this and the jobs and the reasons and all that. So I think that's what I thought I'll start off with, to just put a number to all this, to say, why are we doing all this? And, we live in the technology industry. I'm sure other industries are getting there as well. But I don't know how many people actually get to see data like this and talk about data like this. So let me just put some numbers into that. And the first slide is really the raison d'etre of why are we doing all this. So when we look at NASSCOM, it's the IT Services, IT Industry Association. So we look at what is the IT industry going to do. So by 2026, we're saying we want to be a $350 billion tech industry. Put it in context, we're at 227 billion right now. And this is very specifically a part of the $1 trillion digital economy goal that we have set for ourselves in India, of which the IT industry will take on $350 billion. But $500 billion is what we think will come from the digitization and digital transformation of all the other industries and sectors that we have in the country. Today, I was very surprised to learn, I attend meetings with sector skills councils, and I was talking to, and the Agri Sector Skills Council was talking about it. And there was so much talk about this whole drone business that is going on. Drone application is maximum in the agri sector. Now, who would sitting in Delhi in the air-conditioned office in NASSCOM would think about that is all this, drones are suddenly taking over agriculture, smartphones are taking over agriculture, e-marketplaces are taking over agriculture. So this digitization is happening everywhere. So completely resonate with the theme of this panel to say that this is required across. And, Mr. Jani's presentation on the Karmayogi platform and the initiative is just so absolutely bang on, because if the policymakers and the lawmakers are aware of the power of digital and technology, then we have a framework that enables all this. So again, I mentioned the $227 billion revenue. Now just look at the growth rates. We've been talking about India's growth rate of, is it going to be 8%? Is it going to be 9%? But the technology industry is saying we are going to be growing in double digits. And we continue to maintain this outlook, albeit we've toned it down a little bit given all the recession conversations that are going on. But we're still saying we're going to grow in double digits. So this is a massive number because now the base has also increased a lot. It's a very important industry, and in a way, in today's times, it is becoming the leader of this transformation process, because every industry is now going to look towards IT either to learn from what the IT sector did or take services from the IT sector into their industry. We are a very significant part of India's GDP. We are all above 30% of India's exports. So it's really important that if we are growing in this sector, this be enabled. I think the government is very cognizant of all this. And so that's why all these conversations are going on. So what's happening on the talent space? We do expect a 10% growth in employment in FY 2022, and this growth for digitally skilled talent is going to be in the region of 24 to 26%. Already the digital talent pool in the industry is about 1.6 million. That is 1 out of 3 employees is digitally skilled. But the question is, how did they get digitally skilled? A, and B, how can we make more of them digitally skilled? Because everybody has to get skilled, because every solution tomorrow will be a digital digitally led solution. The great news of this industry is 36% are women. So when we look at inclusion also for our country, which is so important, this industry can lead. So at least it can form, it can provide the opportunities. And once that happens, once the woman goes out to work, other sectors, and not necessarily that every woman's daughter is going to be in technology, but definitely that daughter will be empowered to do something, whatever it is she wants to do. Attrition has become a great problem. It's in the IT industry, it's huge. And I am willing to bet it is going to happen in other industries too, because as the proportion of digital grows in other sectors and other industries, this is going to hit, because talent, until we bridge the talent gap, and I'll just talk a little bit about that, we are going to have the same talent playing merry-go-round with each other and just going from one place to another. We are at over 5 million people already. And this is, as I mentioned, going to grow in double digits. I talked about the demand-supply gap, and that's really the heart of what this conversation is about. Where is our gap? So if we see that the talent demand in 2021 was 4.6 million and the talent supply was 3.8. So we already have a gap of about 20%. The good news on the left side is that India's talent gap is still the smallest from all the other countries. But if you multiply that 20% with what our base is, you realize that's 1 million people. 1 million people, or it means 20% of opportunities that we have today, we are not able to fulfill because we don't have the talent. Every country faces that gap. The US is right at the top, which is why I think this is India's day in the sun, but also causes problems to us, because if all these opportunities are coming up in other countries, we have to make sure that we can retain our talent here. Now, we do have a huge pool of STEM graduates in India. We have 2.1 million STEM graduates, but employability is low. And that's where, when we listen to Dipali about the Atal Tinkering Labs and the Atal Innovation Mission, that's become so crucial, because these people who are coming, these students who are coming into the graduate pool are all coming from schools. So if there is a certain input which is leading to a certain output. So what the schools program does is improves the quality of the input into the college system, so that the quality of those graduates also improves, and therefore their employability will improve. But why, and we can talk about why the employability percentages are so low. I think we are all aware of it. We have, a curriculum which may be outdated. We have faculty that may not be trained. We have a lot of colleges with empty seats or not good quality courses being offered. All that is fine, but I think that's really what this program is, what different programs in the government of India, not just Ministry of IT, but whether it's Ministry of Skills and Ministry of IT, Ministry of Education, everybody is working towards how can we improve it. And the crux of this is really the new education policy, which is a policy framework to say we recognize that this is a problem and how can we fix it. So the biggest thing that the new education policy does, I mean, if I were to say it in one line, it is this seamlessness of skilling in education, where you make skilling in education one and the same. One, of course, you raise the aspirational nature of skilling. And the other is that people are not just theoretically educated, they are practically skilled. So they not only learn something, but they're also able to do something about it. And if you ask me what is again, a one-line explanation of why this employability quotient is so low, I would say it is this whole thing of having theoretical knowledge, but not being able to implement it. Somebody in one of the IT companies gave me a very, very simple illustration. He said, kids who are doing coding in college will write a 50-line code and say, hey, I know coding. But if I have to assess that person's problem-solving capability, logical reasoning, analytical reasoning, then I need them to be able to write a 200-line code, because only then will I be able to see all this. So when will our colleges wake up to this? And today there is no excuse really, and I'll come to that, why there is no excuse for being in this situation. Because, and again, just a little more context in terms of what's really happening. I talked about the 1.6 million people who are digitally skilled, who are already employed in companies. That's because companies are doing a lot in investing in learning management systems. They buy content libraries, they do skill maps, they do customized training, exactly what Mr. Jani talked about that Karmayogi is going to do. And that's also a learning management system that's going to have, very focused training programs based on the skill gaps. So 65-70% of the digital talent has come through reskilling, but we really need this to actually become much wider outside the employer ecosystem, where everybody needs to be skilling themselves. We also need to move out of our tier 1 cities, because there is only limited capacity available. Those cities are bursting at the seams. The hybrid work environment that the pandemic has generated has also generated a huge opportunity for India. All of us have talked about online learning, blended learning, hybrid learning models, and that means that distance and location are no longer a factor. So every model that we look to build should look at this hybrid model. And I'm so happy that the government is looking for its own skilling towards something like this, sharing of resources from one great center to 50 other centers who can learn from best practices. So we are talking about building the beyond IT hubs. Today, when we think IT, we think Gurgaon, Bangalore, Bombay, Pune. But now we need to move to the Coimbatores, Indores, Jaipurs, Nagpur, Bhubaneswars. I mean, everybody knows about, I'm sure if you haven't heard about it, please read about Zoho, which is the poster child of setting up its headquarters in a village in Tenkasi. Rural, it's a village, and they have their headquarters there. So if they can set up their headquarters there, why can't we set up hubs of operations in these centers? What will this do? It will mean people who don't want to move but have the talent can work where they want to work. It will mean an ecosystem that will develop around all this. So for every one IT job, there are 4 others that happen in extended services. So, I mean, I think in terms of addressing the scarce talent pool, this is key. You have to look at where are adjacent talent, where can I look at non-traditional talent, where can I look at alternate talent pools, and if I look at alternate talent pools, how can we skill them? So before getting into what we need to skill them on, I'll just jump into the Future Skills Prime program, which is trying to address all this. So I know this is a little bit of a complex thing, but I have only one slide to describe this. That what Future Skills Prime has done, and MeitY has funded this program, recognizing a really important thing. 2 important things. One is that there is a huge need to build awareness of these technologies. There is a huge need for people to understand what these technologies can do. So for the first time, digital fluency was taken on as an actual learning goal, to say that people should just learn what it is, even if their job doesn't require them to know it or to be able to write a piece of code or to do a piece of analysis. It doesn't matter. Just know what can data analytics do for you. Just know what is artificial intelligence. How can you apply it? And today, so many of India's problems can be just solved by artificial intelligence, by big data analytics. I mean, we are seeing it, in all our public digital platforms that Dr. Mishra talked about, that we're using these technologies to reach every Indian citizen. And I think it was the Prime Minister who said that we are becoming a digital democracy. And that's really true. If you look at the data points, it's one of the most beautiful stats that anyone can talk about India, to talk about all the technology stack that we've built, whether it's Aadhaar, whether it's CoWIN, whether it's eSanjeevani, you just name it. These are absolutely brilliant platforms. So this Future Skills Prime is a ecosystem for skilling, which has enabled us to bring 4 very key participants in the skilling ecosystems together. We keep talking about that government and industry should collaborate, industry and academia should collaborate. Learners don't know what industry wants. Academia doesn't know what industry wants. Nobody knows what the government schemes are. This is a wonderful vehicle for bringing all of it together. So the second big thing that MeitY recognized was that, hey, let the skilling be done by the guys who do it best. So let's not try and create training. Let's go to training partners and bring all of it together. So Future Skills Prime is an aggregator where courses which are approved by the Government of India are available. And once you take this course and get certified, you get 50% of your money back. So you actually get paid to get skilled. The other beautiful thing that this has done is it has given us a common place where which to talk to all these stakeholders. Now, when we go to academia, we say, hey, leverage this platform, either use the courses which are there as it is, or supplement them with what you are doing. We go to government organizations. We are talking to so many PSUs about saying that let all your graduate trainees who are entering your organization take courses here. We are going to non-IT companies. We have healthcare companies. We have mining companies. We have automotive companies who are coming onto the platform. And why? Because they don't know where to start. This becomes a wonderful way for which to get your feet wet. Start with awareness, 30, 40-minute learning capsules, earn a lovely digital fluency badge. We have 2.1 million digital fluency badges that people have earned on this platform. Share it on LinkedIn, show off about what you've done. Start off your digital transformation journey with just a small step. Then when you like it, go and take a course, take a foundation course, or if you actually want to get into something deep learning, do something of that. So we have already more than 800,000 people who have signed up. Lots of people have completed courses on different technologies. We have a good completion rate, and that's only because I think we took an approach where we said that we understand that just self-paced learning is a little difficult. So we need to drive learning by some sort of structural models, which again are run by industry, by colleges, by government departments, PSUs. So that's why we're able to reach these kind of completion rates. 10 technologies are covered on this platform. All the usual suspects of AI, big data, blockchain, cybersecurity. I know I'm hearing a lot about cybersecurity in every conversation I go to. I don't see that data on Future Skills Prime. So obviously the pull is still with AI and big data. Those are the hot topics. We see a lot of interest in Internet of Things. Again, remember, this is learner pull. This is people who are coming on their own and picking up things that they want to learn themselves. So this is what the data is telling us of what people like to learn. And then this also tells us where we need to actually push for more action, because I'm seeing companies are wanting more trained resources on blockchain, but learners are not picking up blockchain. So now how do we bridge that? Now that's what the platform enables us to do. So it becomes a conversation which is data-driven and evidence-led. So that's what really this platform has enabled us to do. So what are the skills? I mean, I think this is the hot thing that everybody wants to know. Like, what is it that I should learn? We've taken an approach that today in the digital era, you need to have 3 types of skills: core technology skills, digital skills, and professional skills. Core technology skills, which, earlier we used to call legacy skills in the IT industry. And I think we did a huge disservice by doing that, because these core skills are going nowhere. Everybody's still going to need to code. We are still going to need to learn to build applications. We're still going to need product engineering. Yes, we are going to get things like low code and no code coming into the picture, but these core tech skills are going nowhere. Every company we have talked to has said this is absolutely important, and bulk of our hiring is still based on these core technology skills. However, if you come with digital skills, you are of course differentiated. Today, cloud is the hottest one that industry wants. AI, ML, analytics, not going anywhere. Again, these are going to be horizontal skills cutting across every domain. And I do believe that the next three, cyber, blockchain, and quantum, are going to become popular very soon. When I started looking at this platform, I used to wonder what blockchain was all about and why is there so much fuss about it. But today, everybody wants to know, understand what it is and say, how can we apply it? So 2 years. I think that's the key also to understand that the shelf life of skills and the shelf life of technologies is very short. Change happens very fast. So we need to have an agile model. And that's what this marketplace-driven approach actually helps us to do. Content curation approach helps us to do, where we say we won't waste time creating content. We will take best-in-class content available in different places and put it on the platform. Web3, another thing that personally I thought till 3 months ago, I thought Web3 is a whole lot of, hype. And that was the time when Meta, set up this whole thing. They took this call on Web3 and the metaverse and all that. And Facebook went through, they went through this whole, what shall I say, is this a good thing to do? Should they transform like this? Should they not? But then just 2 weeks ago, I get a request from one of the largest IT services companies to say, we would like to contribute content on Future Skills Prime on the metaverse. Now, if they want to create content and put it on Future Skills Prime, that means they are obviously seeing a huge opportunity. So I have to reskill myself every 3 weeks, I'll tell you that, because I have to keep updating myself on what is the transformations going on in this world. On professional skills, now this is, I think, the most important part, that's where I feel the school ecosystem feeding into the college ecosystem is so important, because as machines take over more and more work that humans do, humans will have to be more human. We will have to be able to communicate better. We will have to be able to design better. We will have to be able to analyze better. So that we can build applications that we can not only build applications, we can also explain applications, because technology is becoming very complex. How can you, as a subject matter expert, explain to a layperson, because that layperson is the decision maker? How can you explain to them in very simple terms what is the power of your technology? So many times, and I'm sure there are many listeners on this call who would have gone through this. So many times you hear a product demonstration, but you come out of it wondering what the hell was all this about, because it was just too technical and you didn't understand it. Design thinking is really the whole agility of the world that we live in today, that nobody's waiting for perfection. Understand customer need, get a proof of concept out, and keep iterating based on feedback, and continuous improvement is the name of the game. So if you're getting into a 3-year development cycle, forget it. It's going to be outdated by the time it comes live. So get it out there and keep iterating and improving. Be modular. Look at engaging with different applications and creating those building blocks so that that change can come in. So that's really the landscape of the skills that the digital skills landscape is going to look like. I've got some future job roles written out there. Right now, I would say that there is not that much demand for these job roles, but this has to be reviewed every 6 months, because in 6 months, this whole thing could change. So I think that was really the last bit that I wanted to bring up, was that in line with the new education policy, the biggest thing, as I mentioned, was it's integrating skills with education. So we are working with the skills regulator, and that's, when I talked about this circle of this ecosystem, the government, I also include all our regulatory bodies, where they help us create a policy framework that is an enabling framework. So we are going to them and saying there is so much learning content out there that is recognized, that enables jobs, that enables employability, but it is not recognized by our government system. So how can you accredit these courses with our industry, which are popular, which are recognized by industry? We're also saying industry can provide content. So I gave you the example of the metaverse content. Make that also recognized. So certifications in these industry-led programs will also be government recognized. The importance of this is that all of this experiential learning, industry-led learning, global technology certifications being accredited by the skills ecosystem means that it is credit equivalent, means that the student who is learning these courses can earn credits towards their degree. It is not something they have to do extra on their own time. It is something that they can contribute towards their degree and become much, much more industry relevant. So this is a way to jumpstart the process. When we look at college curricula changing, we all know it takes a lot of time. We all know it takes time for faculty to change. And this is not a judgment statement. It is that that's a fact of life. This is a huge ecosystem which takes time to move. Deepali talked about Atal Tinkering Labs, 10,000 centers, but 250,000 schools. And they've been at it for so many years. Naturally, it's really, really hard to build these things and implement them with success. So collaborate, build the ecosystem and use the ecosystem to jumpstart while you enable academia and faculty to catch up. That's what the NEP has done. And I think that's a very powerful idea. I hope we can implement this sooner rather than later. So I think that's it from me. I'll stop here.
Thank you very much, Kirti. In fact, I was just going to request if you could finish in, but I think you concluded right on time. So thanks very much. I think, and very interesting views from your side. And on the drone side, I think I would encourage if you, this is not a revelation to us, because if you visit the Digital India Exposition, which is currently ongoing at Ahmedabad, if you see the stalls on the drone side, I think 80% of the applications are actually showcasing on the agriculture side, on the pesticide spray, on the sensors and everything. So it's a very interesting one and it's a very emerging one. So thank you very much. I think since we have otherwise we have reached the 3 o'clock mark, but I think we still have, we can take one questions at least from each of us. And I believe let's start with Hemangji. So I think on the question side, there is one question for you, in fact, in which even I was going to ask, and I'll make it part A and part B. So the part A basically is that, are you planning in the long run for this kind of a beautiful platform like iGOT to be extended to people outside the government domain also? That is the first. And second, like what I think was also brought out by Kirti on the completion rates, is this iGOT also going to become something like performance linked onto your APARs on the government side, or whether it's going to be considered as purely as a voluntary one? So both questions addressed to you. Thank you.
So I think we haven't seen that future in whether it will be available to public or not, but I'm sure right now there are no such plans, because there are platforms like Future Skills and others, which are also our sister platforms, which are available. But we can certainly have synergies that some of our courses will be available on, say, Future Skill, and some from there will be available here. But this is purely a civil servants platform, and we want to keep it. The scope is 30 million civil servants. So right now it is at 8. The second question is, of course, government, and as part of Mission Karmayogi, there is an EHRMS also being built. So in future, the EHRMS and iGOT will be connected with each other. But the very fact that we are starting with mapping the competencies, that is the first stage of linking it to any kind of performance management system as well. So in future, there is a scope for that as well.
Okay. Thank you. I think so I believe you have another meet appointment also. So please feel free to drop in whenever. We thought we'll have your question first. And then I just summarize in the end and go through. So we'll move on to Deepali. I think there is on the chat side, there is a question. There are actually 2 questions for you. One which says that out of the total of 9,800 adult ATLs that have been created, how many of these are created in the northeastern region? Because that is a domain, that's an area which is of very much importance for the government side. So if you are able to address this. And then the second one is also this, that once you have some results, some students who have gone through the Atal Tinkering Labs, is there some strategy to ensure that these students are followed through subsequently? I mean, because everybody is not getting this. So there are some 10,000 of students who are basically, the schools where this is implemented. How do you ensure that there is a linkage from these students who are benefiting to their higher studies that they do on? Is there some kind of a mapping for these students done, or is there some kind of a incentive for these, or some kind of a channel through which they are taken into the this further higher education stream. So if you could briefly answer these two questions.
Sure. Thank you for sharing those questions and asking those questions. So yes, first of all, the focus has always been on increasing the number of tinkering labs in states or regions where there are seemingly less resources. So hilly regions, northeastern states, Jammu and Kashmir, they've always been a priority for us, and even island states. And within these also, the government schools or state-run schools are a higher priority for us. The count of these, I mean, across multiple states, the northeastern states, is different. So, for example, Manipur has 117 schools, Meghalaya has 13, Mizoram has 26, Sikkim has 27, Nagaland has 25, and the likes of it. So, you could say that on an average, our intention is that we have like a 4% coverage at least across all states, and some of these states across India may be at 3%, some may be at 4.5%, but on an average, that's the percentage, and those are the number of ATLs in northeastern states. On the other question, which is, how are we tracking, the increase? Sorry, am I audible still? The screen has frozen for me. Okay. Yeah. So on the how are we tracking and the future prospects? So a lot of interesting things are happening, and like Ms. Kirti also mentioned that it has to be a connected ecosystem. We have to, for industries to benefit, it has to first feed into the school's curriculum. It has to then go into the college curriculum. We're also trying to create such forward linkages through, the collaborations that we've had. We are seeing a natural pull also from universities. For example, in Chhattisgarh, ATL students are given scholarship to join the science colleges and engineering institutes. So that's one great example, but many such examples are emerging. We are trying to see and map the journey of an ATL student. We've just completed 5 years of operational ATLs and 6 years of the program. And it's a good time. So we are initiating some studies in this manner to track the journey of an ATL student beyond ATL labs. And there are a lot of success stories that we've been able to track, but a more detailed study is underway for seeing the exact counts and where these students are going in terms of pursuing their career journeys ahead. I think Dr. Jaideep, probably you got dropped off, but...
Yes, I'm back.
Oh, you're back. Okay. Yes.
So good. So
I just responded to the 2 questions.
Yes, okay, thank you. So I think there was one question which pertained to my area also, and I'll just pull it through. And it says that digital literacy, how's the acceptability of the scheme among the users, as digital literacy requires a smartphone with proper internet connectivity, especially for cases like PMG Disha, which targets rural areas and relatively older people. So I think it's a very interesting question, and actually that is the biggest challenge that we also encounter, because at the village level, where the mobile phones, we know in one family there may be one single phone which the housekeeper of the family is the one who would be basically having that phone. So the model in which the PMG Disha works basically is that at the CSC centers, they visit those CSC centers physically, and their training is imparted at those centers. Subsequent to that, there are 5 transactions, you would say financial transactions, booking a ticket that is done, also shown to them through their own mobile phones also, that they're able to bring in. But subsequent to that, I think making every family own a mobile phone and all is difficult for us. But we basically are in the hope that once at least we have enabled them, we have given them the tool, they are free to visit any of the CSC centers and they are able to use it. They are enabled so that they are able to use it. The device obviously poses a challenge, for which separately different efforts are being made to encourage greater production within the country and all. But the point is very extremely relevant, and this is definitely a challenge for us to be able to have the maximum utilization of the trainings that they have gone through. And it would be ideal if all of them have it and they are able to use it properly in an operational mode. But yes, definitely we are all familiar, but it's a more generic issue that rather than the PMG Disha's issue per se, that I would like to say. So I think the last question that we have is for Kirti, in which there is a one question that I can see, at least there are few, but I'll pick up only one, how to manage different skill sets when their shelf life is not more than a year itself. So that's the question for you, Kirti. Maybe you can briefly cover it in a minute's time.
It's a great question. It's actually the question, because when the shelf life of skills is so short, the responsibility of staying upskilled or relevant shifts to the individual. And that's why these resources that are available, so many resources available, it's important to take advantage of these resources. Even when companies hire today, if you do a survey, we did a survey, and the one thing that came up was that what we are really looking for is learning agility. And why are companies looking for learning agility? Exactly for this reason, because the shelf life of skills is short and you need to have that learnability quotient inside you to be able to learn things. And how will you have learning agility? If you have some of your fundamentals straight so that your base is strong. I mean, think about it. If you know your maths well, there is a lot that you can do sitting on top of mathematics, which may not be exactly mathematics, but your fundas are very straight. So that's really how it works. Make sure that your fundamentals are very strong so that whenever things come along that you need to learn, you are able to learn and understand. Keep your eyes and ears open on what are the resources available to you. Take ownership for your learning. I think that's the only answer. Peter Drucker said that the only skill required to learn in today's world, the only skill required in today's world is the skill to learn.
Yes, so thank you very much. So I think we come to the last part of it, and I'll just try to very quickly summarize. And we have had, leaving aside my 3 expert and extremely interesting presentations, we were taken through the visualization of the matrix revolution and Trinity and Neo coming through, which Mr. Jani brought in, and also mentioned about the demand supply side, how the government, what specific initiatives are being built into the iGOT platform, the mission Karmayogi, so that we are able to at least within the government setup, and he mentioned specifically about the 30 million civil servants, if they are at least brought in up to date with the modern technologies, with learning modern technology tools, there is expectation of a much larger spillover, and the benefits of it would accrue and would flow down to the entire nation. So the very interesting presentation from his side. On coming on to the Atal Innovation Mission, which Dipaliji, I think, mentioned about and shared with us, the various skills on design mindset, computational thinking, adaptive learning, and bringing the entire ecosystem of the learning education ecosystem up front. Coming on to what Kirti shared about the 350 billion tech industry, I think, and reaching up to $500 billion plus for the entire ecosystem contribution. And where we, while US is leading, there is a sizable demand gap supply within the country also. But I think she basically touched on the key words and the key takeaways, I think, which I'd like to summarize is the need for a seamlessness in the skilling starting from the education system, from our school children, building on to the school system, moving on to the higher education learning systems, coming on to the industry, and the active collaboration that is required between the academia, between the industry, between the government to nurture this entire ecosystem. And the academic, like the credits that are coming in, going on from the skilling ecosystem to the academic side and vice versa. If we can bring in a very robust system of this kind of a sharing mechanism, which will incentivize the entire education system also, while the skilling system also tends to benefit and improving upon the employability, which I think brought out at current our graduates and all of under 35% employability is there for those. So I think if we are able to improve upon the entire efficiencies in this system through this active collaboration, I'm sure we'll be able to produce a world-class system of our the entire skilling ecosystem and be able to service not only our country but the entire nation, the world per se. So I think with these thoughts that I would like to share, and I think it has been extremely enriching session from all of us. And I'd like to thank all the speakers on my behalf, and I pass on the mic to Anjali to do the final summaries, I think, from your side or protocols that are required. So thank you. All over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Mishra, and to all the panelists for providing us with abundance of insightful information on the technology stack for skilling. Before we wind up the session, I would like to state a few takeaways that I got from this entire session. I think that the convergence of technology, education, and skilling can really create a future-ready India. I witnessed a few examples in yesterday's session of technology stack for education and a lot more here today. So tech is indeed playing a major role in seamlessly catering to the skilling challenge of the country. Another key takeaway for me is that with growing digital technologies and innovation, it's pertinent that we reskill or upskill ourselves to stay ahead of the race. And as Dr. Mishra rightly said, at the end of the day, it's all about the right kind of collaboration. So thank you for that wonderful session. I had a great time, and I'm sure the participants too. So thank you so much. We truly enjoyed having all participants join us today. Stay tuned for the last session of the day on digital inclusion and connecting unconnected from 3:30 p.m. onwards till 5 p.m. Take care and have a good rest of the day.
Thank you. Namaskar, everyone. Thanks, everyone.